Here's a 5-step approach to practice non-duality while taking a walk. I made a video about this before, but in this video, I'm going to go into more detail, and I just think it bears repeating because the non-dual contemplations, while very subtle, are really profound when they start to clarify your experience, when they start to open the experience to the non-dualistic, which is without boundaries, without separation, without agency, and so forth. So I'll actually break this down into 5 steps. This can happen during any kind of activity outside, moving through your environment, but just simple taking a walk is actually a really good time and space to explore this, because there's really no distractions typically. You may be listening to music or something, but otherwise, typically there aren't a lot of distractions. You're not typically on a phone or a device. You may be having a conversation with somebody, but especially if you're by yourself, this is like the perfect time and space to practice in. So we start by dropping the background watcher. So notice that when you start a practice like this, it's easy to reify the sense of somebody in the background kind of watching, kind of the one being mindful. All right. If possible, just drop that. Drop the idea that I'm the observer, that I'm the one moving through the environment, that I'm the one who is investigating, and just enter directly into the experience of the happening. So whatever's happening, I want you to just enter as directly as possible as you can into that. That's the second step, essentially. And this means if you're walking, feel the contact of your feet on the ground. If you're noticing trees, notice the immediacy of the green. Notice the immediacy of the shapes and the branches. And notice the immediacy of the sounds, the birds, the sound of cars if you hear cars, or the ocean if you're walking by the ocean. Any ambient sounds, notice the immediacy of that and enter that as directly as possible, meaning we're not trying to analyze, we're not trying to label, we're not trying to track, which is really the third step, and that is don't try to track or navigate this as an experience that requires any kind of analysis. Rather, just let go into the immediacy, let go into that sense of the appearance that is so simple, obvious, and immediate that there's no one here that needs to receive that appearance. The appearance of a tree is so immediate that there's no sense of a receiver. The sense of the foot touching the ground is so immediate that there's no sense of a receiver. There's no sense of anyone managing, tracking, recording, or labeling. And if you have to remind yourself of this a few times, you know that's okay. You probably will, because there's a habit. It's not that the mind is stronger than this sort of non-dualistic immediacy. It's just that the habit of mind is strong. It's been there a long time. It's got a lot of momentum. So you may have to remind yourself several times when you begin this that there is no gap. There's no perceiver. There's no one moving through the environment. There's no one tracking experience. There's no one being mindful. There is just that green or that blue when you look into the vast sky. And it's immediate, requires no activity on your part. It doesn't require you to receive it or meet it. It's just here already. Yeah. So you want to notice that immediacy, and then that will lead you directly into letting go of any tracking. Okay. And then you want to rest in the gapless. Rest in the gapless immediacy. And notice with sound and sensation, there's no gap between sound and sensation. There's just sound. There's just sensation. When taking a breath, there's no gap between taking a breath and the color of the sky and the sounds and the sensation of your feet on the floor or the sidewalk, let's say, or the ground. There's just gaplessness. There is nothing aside from that immediacy that is navigating this experience. The immediacy is the experience. There's no navigator. That's the key, right? The gaplessness and the immediacy are really the key here. That there is nothing moving from one phenomenon to another phenomenon. There's nothing moving from one appearance to another appearance. There's just appearance. And it's immediate, gapless, effortless, and requires no thought whatsoever. If thoughts sneak in here, and they will occasionally, even once you're sort of getting the flow of this, you will notice thoughts appearing. Notice those thoughts are also gapless. The thought doesn't refer back to someone. It doesn't refer to a capability called perceiving. It doesn't refer to some vastness called awareness. It's just a thought, immediately appearing spontaneously without gap to no one in particular. Just thought. So notice thought is the same actually as the colors, the sounds, the sensations. But this is the kind of thing that becomes a little more obvious once you've been doing this, once you've started to recognize what gaplessness really is. So remember, thought itself is really just one appearance. And then the last step, or the last part of this, number 5, is I want you to stay open. This is one of the harder ones to talk about because it can sound like, holding an awareness or holding a space or being mindful, but it's not so much that. The openness is really the experience of non-agency. The openness says, I'm letting the environment dictate the experience, not letting the mind subtly dictate the experience through anticipation, analysis, and so forth. That's what happens, and we don't realize we're actually adding a sense of doership into the background. We're adding a sense of agency into the background. We're adding a background. That's it, right? We're adding something to fill in the seeming gaps. But it's actually gapless. There are no gaps. Yeah? So that's what it means to stay open, is let the sounds appear as they appear. Let the sensations appear as they appear. Let the movement move. Let the green be green. Let the sound be the sound. Let the breath breathe. Let the legs move. Let the hands move. Notice there is no gap between any of this, including thought. And that is openness. That openness will carry this forward and carry it deeper into itself. It will carry this experience. So just to reiterate, the steps essentially, or the parts I don't want you to overlook in this, are dropping the background watcher, the first part, noticing that we might enter practice as a sense of the practitioner or the practicer or the background watcher, and you want to just let that drop, entering directly into immediate experience or the happening, meaning notice it's already just that. It's already just bright. It's already just sound. It's already just feel. There's nothing that needs to receive, monitor, become mindful of that. It's just there, right? And that's through direct sensory experience. And then letting go of any labeling or tracking. So similar to number 1, but this is a little more subtle in that what we're noticing about the gaplessness is that starts to show us that there's no tracking. This 3 and 4 could be reversed actually, but it doesn't matter. But the lack of tracking is important in that as we enter the happening itself fully, we start to see that there's no intermediary. There's no receiver. There's no transmitter of experience. There's just experience. That leads us to see that there's no need to track. There's nothing. In fact, there's no tracking that's happening at all. And then that's the gapless immediacy. We can rest in that as we notice the lack of anything linking experiences. There's no link, and there's no one linking. And the immediacy, those together really allow us to rest in this gaplessness, and then we can essentially just practice remaining open and curious in this gaplessness, such that the appearances themselves are defining the, let's call it the environment, rather than the mind as some subtle observer, some subtle agent, defining a sort of timeline on which that environment is appearing. It's the opposite, right? It's just environment appearing. There is no timeline. But if that sense of doership sneaks in, that sense of agency, it will feel like there's a timeline, that's primary, and then there's an environment appearing in that timeline. So try these steps and tell me how it goes for you. And you may take each step slowly over 5 minutes or something like that and see if you can really get the gist of what's pointed to here. Thank you. I hope this is helpful.